The black suit felt heavier than any uniform he'd ever worn. Marine Corps veteran Daniel Hayes stood outside St. Michael's Cathedral, his hands trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of grief that no amount of military discipline could contain. Inside that church lay his wife Sarah, the woman who'd waded through 3 deployments, who'd held their family together when war tried to tear it apart. And now, on the day he was supposed to say goodbye to her, everything was about to go catastrophically wrong. Officer Mitchell Crawford didn't care about any of that. He saw a man standing on the sidewalk, technically on church property, and decided that was enough. "You can't park there," Crawford barked, pointing at Daniel's truck in a spot that had been there for mourners for decades. Daniel turned slowly, his eyes red from days without sleep. "Officer, I'm here for my wife's funeral. It starts in 10 minutes. Please." His voice cracked on that last word. Crawford's response? "Move it now, or I'll move you." What happened next would be captured on 6 different cell phones. Daniel took one step toward his truck, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion and sorrow, when Crawford grabbed his arm and spun him around. "Don't walk away from me." The veteran, trained to de-escalate, raised his hands. "Sir, I'm complying. I'm moving it." But Crawford had already made his decision. The taser came out. 50,000 volts slammed through Daniel's body as mourners screamed. He hit the pavement hard, his head cracking against the curb, blood pooling beneath his face. The same pavement where Sarah had once stood in her wedding dress, laughing as Daniel carried her to the car. Now he lay there convulsing while his wife waited in a casket 30 feet away. Inside the church, the organist stopped playing. Daniel's brother Marcus, also a Marine, heard the commotion and burst through the doors. What he saw made his blood run cold. His brother, a man who'd survived Fallujah, who'd carried wounded soldiers through enemy fire, was face down on the concrete, handcuffed, while Officer Crawford stood over him, radioing for backup. "What have you done?" Marcus roared. "His wife's funeral is starting right now!" Crawford's backup arrived. 3 more officers who formed a wall around Daniel, who was now barely conscious, mumbling Sarah's name over and over. The funeral director pleaded with them. The pastor begged. Daniel's teenage daughter Emily came running out, her black dress catching the wind, and the sound that came from her mouth when she saw her father bleeding on the ground would haunt everyone who heard it. "Daddy, no, no, no! Not today, please God, not today!" Crawford told her to step back. He actually told a girl who was about to bury her mother to step back from her injured father. But here's what Officer Crawford didn't know. Here's what he couldn't have anticipated. Inside that church sat 73 people, and 42 of them were Marines, brothers and sisters from Daniel's unit, men and women who'd bled with him, fought beside him, and who understood a code that Crawford had just violated in the most spectacular way possible. Marcus made one phone call. 7 minutes. That's all it took. 7 minutes after Daniel hit that pavement, the street transformed. They came from inside the church first. Dress blues and service uniforms, rows of medals catching the morning sun. Then more arrived. They came from 3 states away. They came from the VFW hall down the street. They came because that's what Marines do. Within 12 minutes, over 200 veterans lined both sides of that street, standing at attention, creating a corridor of honor that stretched from the church doors to the cemetery gates 2 blocks away. Retired Lieutenant Colonel James Brennan, Daniel's former commanding officer, walked straight up to Officer Crawford. At 6'4", with 30 years of service etched into his face, Brennan didn't need to raise his voice. "Officer, you have 2 choices. You can release that Marine right now, or you can explain to every news camera that's about to arrive why you tased a decorated veteran outside his wife's funeral." Crawford's face went white. He looked around at the wall of Marines, at the growing crowd, at the phones recording everything. His hands shook as he removed the handcuffs. Daniel rose slowly, blood still streaming from his head wound. Colonel Brennan caught him as he stumbled. "We've got you, son. We've got you." Emily ran to her father, and this time no one stopped her. The Marines parted to let them through, then closed ranks again, a human shield of honor and protection. As Daniel walked his daughter back into that church, 200 voices began singing the Marines' hymn in perfect unison. Grown men wept. Strangers stopped their cars and stood with hands over hearts. The funeral proceeded. Daniel sat in the front pew, bandaged and bruised, holding his daughter's hand, while his brothers and sisters in arms filled every seat, lined every wall, and stood guard outside. When it came time to carry Sarah's casket, 8 Marines in dress blues stepped forward. They bore her to her final rest with the same dignity and precision they'd bring to one of their own fallen warriors, because to them she was. She'd served too, as a Marine wife, as a Marine mother, holding down the home front while her husband held the line overseas. Officer Mitchell Crawford was suspended pending investigation. The police chief himself showed up to apologize. But the real story wasn't about his punishment. It was about what happened when one man faced his darkest hour and discovered he wasn't alone. It was about a brotherhood that doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It was about 200 people who proved that honor isn't just a word. It's a promise. And Marines keep their promises. Always.